you remember the controversy when you were being interviewed, actually speaking? So what was the naughtiest thing you remember? Which you can tell us, of course. I know there are going to be a lot of naughty things you cannot tell us. Nervous?
Little.
Are you ready? Hottest guy in G7? Be the cutest.
Not found any.
So all the naughty things you did was up to the 12th standard. I think very few people in G7 will know that actually, that you took second PUC exam the second time.
Welcome to Spotlight. But I was the only one who used to go like kebab mein haddi with them. Sort of a thing. I would really thank those people. I didn't want to be an engineer.
Hi, welcome to season 1 of Spotlight, G7CR Spotlight. Today we are in conversation with a very special person. I don't think she needs an introduction in G7. She's one of the people who sometimes I feel is more famous than I am. So, welcome Soumya.
Thank you so much, sir.
Nervous?
Little.
So we're going to have a chat with you in terms of understanding lots of things about you. I want everybody in G7 to get to know you. So maybe I'll start with you telling me what were your favorite moments you growing up as a child. Maybe we can start right there. Anything which is very memorable to you.
No, I think I just like the part of childhood where I spent a lot of time with parents. I think that's the most memorable. I was like the pet at home because I was the only granddaughter of the complete family from both the sides. So I think that was the best.
You were the pet or your younger brother was the pet?
I was the pet because he was born after 10 years after I was born. Not to 10 years, I was like the complete.
But he didn't take over from you after he was born. Usually people like the younger kid, right? It's always like give up everything to the younger kid.
After 10 years, yes.
After 10 years, yes.
He's the spotlight at home.
He's the spotlight at home now. Mum, dad, who do you like better, mum or dad in terms of? I know you like both of them, but who
Dad more. But there are things where I speak more to mum than dad. So, but I like dad the more. Secrets is with my mom, not with dad.
Okay. In terms of your college, how was your college life? I mean, what are the memories you have in college? Who were your best friends in college?
I have very few set of friends. So I had 2-3 of them who were my school friends, who were same friends in college as well. But yes, I took science and my other friends were in commerce and things. So I was only the person in that. But if I have to remember about college life, I think I've like extremely enjoyed it. I screwed it to the extent where no one can even think. Where I think I wrote second PU twice. Okay,
You wrote for yourself and somebody else?
No, I wrote it for myself. Eventually, I understood the team where I spent most of the time, right? Everyone passed and I was the one who flunked. Because I took science and pretty others took commerce. So I think maths was the toughest subject when I was doing my PU. But I withdrew all. The only person who stood by my side was dad. But until then, mom was like, just pass. Whichever is gone, right? Just pass that. And I was like, no, I'm going to withdraw everything. So I stayed at home 1 year. I wrote the complete thing again, and
I think very few people in G7 will know that actually, that you took second PUC exam the second time. Well, in terms of engineering, what made you choose engineering? Was it a planned choice?
It was really not a planned choice. I always wanted to take up medicine. I didn't want to be an engineer. Even when I flunked my second PU and I got back right, I was telling my dad, maybe I should do BCom because I should do BSc, because once you do BSc, you can still opt for choosing medicine, because I wanted to go that stream. But he was pretty upset, telling, no, everyone's kids become doctors or engineers or something, you have to get into that. Then there was a challenge he made. I know you don't like math and maybe that's why you don't want to do it. I was like, don't tell I don't know math. You want me to do it, I will take engineering. So it was just a challenge. I took an engineering because I wanted to tell him that, I'm not bad at math. I can really pass math. So that's the way I got into engineering. But as and when I joined, I think the environment made me start doing it. It was not in the city anyway here. It was almost like 35 kilometers, up and down 70 kilometers. So everywhere it was just farms. So you had no choice of distractions or anything. You had to sit and study.
Okay, so all the naughty things you did was up to the 12th standard. After that you studied?
Yes. After that, I think that 1 year where I stayed at home made me realize a lot of stuff. Who will be at your time when there's no one on your side. Only my parents stood by my side. No one apart from that. Relations or maybe the people who stay, my neighbors. Everyone just took an advantage of, talking about.
She failed.
She failed, right? She used to talk so much. See, now she's failed. Don't become like her. those are the types of things I could hear. And my parents were like, no, she's still taking an exam and all. I was like, just go and tell them. I flunked. It's okay. Someday I will pass.
How are these people now actually? I mean the same people who were...
Oh, I've got 2 resumes where they're like, please, can you help me? My son is looking for a job. My daughter is looking for a job. Why don't you just see if you can help them and things. Now when you go to their house also, they treat you better, at least the relations.
What was the role model growing up? I mean, was there someone at home, family, friends, teachers, someone who inspired you, someone you wanted to become like?
Inspiration was always my dad, because the way he's come up in life was pretty much, that's what, until I was in PU, right, I never understood how much effort he took to come to this place. All that I wanted to come out of is that struggleful life, because even for that fees, I took a government seat where even paying that 35,000 was a very big amount for me at that point in time. But I think just coming out of that level where I just give my parents the comfort where they can at least not worry about the next day. Right? I think that was the only thing, but that was the motivation.
Amazing. What are the main things about your dad that you think you've adapted or enrolled? Because I know quite a bit about your dad in terms of how he is as a human. So what are the best things that you want to adapt or already adapted?
The hard work, because I've never seen him just stand still. He finishes work, comes back at 4:30, but I still see him. Today he can just chill out at home, right? I'm working, but still, even today, there are times he spends 4 hours, 5 hours just earning 500 rupees. Looking into him, the way he gets into it, I think that's what keeps me motivated, the hard work.
What was the naughtiest thing you remember doing? Now I know your naughty life was only till 12th because you just told me that. So what was the naughtiest thing you remember? which you can tell us, of course. I know there are going to be a lot of naughty things you cannot tell us. Which is the one you can tell us?
Naughtiest, not really, because I was in a girls' school, and even in PU, I was not that of a thing, because all my friends who were with me had boyfriends, but I was the only one who used to go like kebab mein haddi with them. So only thing I used to do is they used to sit in a corner seat, I would sit and watch movie or eat the popcorn. But the naughtiest thing is only the school, I think. I just jumped out of the compound and just went to forum and came back, and later got caught with principal, and that was the only thing I think naughtiest. Other than that.
But naughty does not mean boyfriend. So naughty you related to straight boyfriend only.
No, I told all the other things.
Anything where you got shouted at, you got beaten up in school or college that you remember?
I think when I was a kid, after school, college, no. At least after I came to PU or no. They were very supportive. Even during the PU stage, school, yes, a lot of times. I got even kicked. And went under the bed, Dad.
I think we all have. That was a different generation, right? So if parents didn't do that, they were not parents. In terms of, I remember your interview. So you finished your engineering, and I know you were a fresher when we picked you up. So you came. Who took your first round of interview? Do you remember?
Oh, it was Jess.
It was Jess. What did she ask you during that interview?
No, I think the first round was just the group discussion. So it was just the group discussion, but after that I think we had one-on-one interview of just picking some topic and talking about it, but after that it was directly with you again. You
remember the controversy when you were being interviewed, actually speaking? We would love to hear that controversy. Everybody would like to hear about that. No, I think it was with the person I came with. It was just my friend who came with me. We studied together. But I think eventually it was like he was my boyfriend, but he was really not my boyfriend. We've been together in school. I think everywhere he used to, the same tuitions we were going and all of it. There was no controversy, I said, but I don't know why that perception got created that he's my boyfriend. Only if he joins, I'll join the job. So what did Jess call and ask you actually? What?
She called me and she's like, she said you're selected, but the other person is not selected. You sure you still want to join the job? I was like, yeah, I'll join. If he's not good, I will join this. That's when I realized, okay, maybe they thought.
So she was not direct, like, I mean, if your boyfriend does not get the job.
No, the boyfriend was not mentioned, but she said, you think the other person with you who came, if he's not selected, you'll not take up the job. I said, no, nothing like that. I'll take it up.
Oh, just to tell you the inside story, she came and told me that I don't think, we both discussed it. We said, I don't think she'll join if her boyfriend also does not get the job. Okay, she said, just told me, okay, let me give her a call and ask her. And that's why that call came. What is he doing right now? Is he did he get a job after?
Yeah, he's doing his job. He's in ITMA Labs now working.
And see, when we recruited you, you were more into the development team. I don't think we took you into Azure, right? You were supposed to be a part of Sajid's team. Okay, and what influenced you to turn into an infrastructure? Because I remember you were given a choice of who wants to join infrastructure over development. And most engineers say, I want to develop code. but you were one of the few people who choose, let me switch to infrastructure.
Oh, I think it was only the one project which we did together. I don't remember the customer's name eventually. It was completely working with PowerShell script and things, where that time it was everything manual. At least now the portal is pretty familiar. You can just do click, click, click and do things. But at that time, creating machine, you had to, type PowerShell script and execute. It made you interesting. So that's when I thought, okay, maybe this is something I wanted to try. But I was very scared because I hardly seen people who were in infrastructure and I was the only girl. So that scared me a little, but things went right, I think.
And how has the journey been after that? You are one of the few people in G7 who's more experienced than even me, I would say. You've been in almost all departments. Let's talk about the first role that you were in. So you moved into infrastructure. What were the best things that happened during that time where you were working on support, implementation? I mean, we did almost everything in those days. So what was the kind of experience and feeling?
Oh, everything was new. I would remember scenarios where we didn't know. In engineering, they don't teach you hands-on, right? Even if you want to do a disk management, it was a big thing for you to split a disk. You didn't know how to do it. But people you were working with were senior to you and were like, you don't know how to do a disk split. I was like, no, I don't know how to do it. At times, I remember, I think 2-3 weeks later, after I joined the infrastructure, I literally cried in the bathroom so much, telling, no, I made a bad choice. Then later, thanks to Neha ma'am, who was my manager at that point in time, she's like, no, it's not like that. You have to try it out. Just don't take all of that to your mind and things. So, but it was an amazing journey. When I took up even the development piece, I think the salary was one of the major things. I had a lot of influences in the back end because I just finished my engineering, and there were a lot of other friends who were getting into jobs in big known companies and stuff, right? And where people were like, you're sure you want to get into that job? This is what they pay you and all of it. But I don't know. I think I was meant to be here, but at that point in time, I made a right decision. But the path was really, really great. The learning curve when I joined into development and maybe started doing the implementation, support, I didn't know how to write mails. I still remember I had a colleague, Varun, where I used to tell him, I don't know how to write mails. He's like, no, just write 2-3 mails. I remember you, when I took the first call, you were standing behind me and telling, now take the call. I had never taken a call, but it was an amazing learning journey. Amazing.
Who were the people in that time? I'm talking about this phase when you first joined and you were in the infrastructure team. There were a lot of senior people there. Okay, you were one. I think we only had 2 freshers. I think you and Sonali were the only freshers who were in that team. I think most of the others were coming with some work experience. May not be Azure, but at least some work experience. So who harassed you the most there? Who was the person who most probably made you feel as bad as possible in that group?
Eventually it was Zia, and later it was Gulab.
So it was Zia also, okay.
Yeah, Zia was the first person who was responsible at that time. I was like, you don't know how to do so much, and it was rude. I had never been into that. So it was first person.
How did it feel now? Now you just said that sometimes they made you feel bad that you didn't know something. But after that, you eventually went on to lead that entire support team. So how was the feeling at that point of time when you were given that role to lead that?
Oh, I would really thank those people. If that day they wouldn't have told that and I wouldn't have felt bad, I wouldn't have gone back and studied and be like, I will give you tomorrow back. That of a thing. I would really thank those people because of them, I think. And
you led, I think, almost around 10-12 people were in the team when you started leading them. Do you remember any of them?
Oh, I remember all of them. So there were 2 phases which was there. I think the first batch we had Pralay, we had Hashim, we had Shiva, we had Pratip Raj. And I think we also had Selvi from the other team. We had Preeta. So these are all the people.
Any favorite from there? Who do you thought was the best?
No, all were best.
No favorites. Now you're being diplomatic.
No, I like all of them.
Okay, who was the worst there?
No, not worst.
All of them were good.
Yeah, all of them were good.
How does it feel today? You see Pralay, Shiva, all of them growing. Okay, who more or less did learn quite a few things from you because I think Pralay was a fresher when he came in, right? So he's been one of our stars who's there. So how does it feel today when you know that you are his essential mentor?
I feel really good when I talk to Pralay and Shiva. Pralay very much because even now when I see him taking the calls, when I remember the first time is when he started working with Office 365, basically not even Azure. But that team was very hard working. There were you didn't have to tell them that guys we have to finish this in time. I used to see them where in 91 Spring Boot we used to wait until like 2-3. You could still see them sitting and working, and next day they're very on time. They're not giving you reasons telling I worked till at this point in time or anything, nothing as such. But most dedicated team, and today when you see him taking calls, things that I feel shit, even I should have, a lot of things that you can learn from Pralay, the way he handles the calls at least.
Wow. You moved from that team. When we moved you out of that team, I remember I spoke to you personally. When we were moving you out of that team and we were moving you into, I think from there we moved you into sales, right?
Migration for some time.
Migration for some time, and then you moved into sales. So we moved you into sales. How was the feeling? Because I remember I spoke to you at that point of time. I may have understood the feeling, but how did you actually feel? I mean, were you feeling good? Were you feeling bad? What was the feeling at that time? When
No, I've always felt that the choices which you or Jess have taken was always right for me. At that point, I was like, am I going to lose the complete technical touch? Because at that time, we were just facing the customers and we've never faced the customers. All that you used to do was on phone calls and maybe just mails and stuff. But I really wanted to try it. I'd seen Jess closing orders, right? I was like, oh, let's try that experience, sort of a thing. It was
how was the experience after you joined? I mean, when you joined there, was it what you expected? Were you enjoying it as a part of it?
What I felt is everyone should understand other teams' effort that at least they put in. Because trust me, I want to be honest. When we did migration, when someone is to even close an order of 1,000 rupees, right, we didn't understand the value of it. Where 1,000 rupees, one machine, create and just hand it over. Migration, okay, 50,000, you start judging the account. But after you went into sales, the effort you put to close that order, the confidence you give the customer that our team is this, and the way we showcase, which we are really good at technical stuff, the confidence they give to win the order. I was like, shit, we put so much of effort and this is how we started treating them. I think that really changed the perception after I went back to migration, after I went back from sales. I think every order should be given.
What was the most stressful you've been with Gulab, where you felt like killing him sometimes? I've seen you sometimes want to kill him. Okay.
Oh, most when he was in support. Most when he was in support.
When he was in support. And you were in sales. That was those were the scenarios.
Where you're just thinking about the order, you're not thinking about the customer.
Excellent. Who's the best equation that you have within G7? Friends, colleagues? I mean, I know everybody are your friends in G7, but who would you consider most probably your close buddies?
Oh, close buddies, Jess and you. Then Sahana and Chandana and Anusha, Rakesh. Just a small.
This is your gang of people. You guys took one.
I don't miss. If I miss name, I'm sorry. A lot of other people are there.
Guys, everybody's name she missed is not in her friend list. Okay, so you guys took this trip to Goa. Okay, I mean it was not an official trip, but how was it?
It was amazing. The best decision we did, and I think that was the first trip we did after we joined G7, where it was unofficial, where we made a gang and we decided let's go. We had amazing fun. We got a lot of love stories while we came back.
Okay.
So it was a nice trip.
Was any of them yours?
No, not mine.
Okay. So definitely, I think a lot of people in G7 want to ask this question. Okay. What's on the cards? Love, marriage. Okay. When is marriage going to happen? Is it going to happen soon? Have you found the boy? Are you looking for the boy? A lot of guys in G7 want to know this.
Marriage not really soon. That's not even in the cards for now.
Okay.
Not even in the cards.
How? Not even close by. Okay. So what about boyfriends? I mean, you're looking for new ones. You got existing ones.
No, I'm happy with the one I have.
You're happy with the one.
The one I have. Yeah, I think I'm just happy with the one I have.
Excellent. If you have to change something in terms of personal life, what would you want to change?
Maybe the times I screwed up my PU. I would want to change that. If it is, maybe relationship at some point. I don't remember. I still feel maybe I should have thought twice before I got into a relationship.
And as an individual, how much do you think you've changed? Let's look at it as before G7 and after G7. How much have you changed? Oh, I remember one thing at least. You had your first drink with G7, right? When you took your
first drink was
first drink with G7. But you had more than one that day, right?
Two.
You had two. Okay. Two. More than two?
No,
just two.
Just two was the first time, no? Okay. And a lot of lemons after that.
And after that, you never stopped drinking.
No, never stopped.
Before you get an impression of a drunkard, most probably you're not. But, and I noticed that you basically moved from what you were drinking, cocktails that day?
No, it was tequila.
Tequila shots. Oh my God! So your first drink was a tequila shot. Man, that's some graduation program. Would you blame G7 for changing you into someone
No,
who
I
drinks?
don't think so. Nowhere I would blame G7. It's always given me the best.
What else has changed? You as a person. You said lots. I mean, what is the tremendous changes?
The way I started seeing life, the way I started seeing people. Uh, I think from the time I get up in the morning, if I remember how I was before, how I am now, things have definitely changed. If I have to name, there's so many things I changed. Maybe the routine, or maybe the lifestyle, or the way I was um, uh, taking consideration to people or talking to them. Everything has changed.
Okay. Definitely. Now, this question I'd love to ask you. Okay. Equation with bosses. Okay. So, how many bosses have you had in G7 since you've joined?
3.
3. Okay. One was me, of course. One was Jess, and Deepak you reported to at some point of time.
Neha.
Neha. Okay. So definitely now I want experiences on all 3, and you need to be truthful and brutal again here.
No, I think I've always liked all 3.
That's the
No,
diplomatic
I've always
answer.
liked all 3.
Okay, who's the best in all the 3? Let's
You.
rate them from 3 to 1.
You.
You. Second best.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, no. Oh, fine.
You can also see I've reported to you more. Second is Jeff. And
I think Neha was a very short time.
Short
right?
time. I think it was
very
just
short
2-3
time
months.
2-3 months only. Okay, so relationship with Jess. Okay.
It's more like a boyfriend.
She's the boyfriend or you're the boyfriend?
No, I am the boyfriend. I keep torturing her. No, she's an amazing person. You can talk to her anything. You can just be, just be as open you are. You can just talk to her anything, personal, professional. Have problems, just go to her, and I'm sure you'll come back positive.
Okay, 2 bad things about Jess.
Bad things about Jess. She does not drink with us.
She does not?
Drink with us. She after that, she'll tell you what all you did.
Okay. The second one?
I don't
No,
think
no
so.
bad things.
No.
Okay. Okay, now this would be very difficult for you to be honest. I'm sitting right here, but still, since I asked about Jess, so your equation with Chris as a boss.
Amazing. I've learned a lot from you. Today, anything I am, that's because of you, at least in the vision that you've given, because even now I still believe anything you would have carved a path for all of us, it's always long term, and you have the best thing set for us. It's just that I believe in you and just walk.
Now I regret asking that question, so let's go on quickly
You
to the
said
next
truthful,
question
I was truthful.
before I feel embarrassed. So, you're part of your job, you've been working closely with Microsoft Teams, especially when you were in Smarg. And now with migration also, I think there's quite a bit of involvement from Microsoft. So would love to know your equation and how was your experience with the Microsoft team?
With respect to the people I've met amazing people. At least when I was in Smarg and sales, I got to meet a lot of account managers. The way I've learned a lot from them, the way they position what they have to sell. But yeah, sometimes here and there you've met people where I think forcefully, even if the customer does not need, you see that there's a pushing that happens, and once they onboard, you've got feedbacks and migration telling this is something that I didn't want, but I had to take it, sort of a thing. But with respect to learning, there were amazing people like Pradeep, Solomon, and Arjit. Amazing people you've met.
Wonderful. And since we're talking about equations with people, your bosses, Microsoft, there's one person who I cannot miss at all. You and Gulab have always been this cat and mouse game. We don't know whether you guys love each other, hate each other. So I've seen you. Sometimes you look like you're ready to kill him. So what is this about Gulab and you?
Oh, that's more like a Tom and Jerry, I would still say. He's an amazing person. There's so many times that, at least during the initial stage when we were working, I think that time it required where you had to spend like days together. There are times where he's dropped me home, made sure that I've gone home safe. Until I climb the stairs, he's looking at you, whether you've reached home, says byes and go. But somewhere with respect to work, I don't know, we don't connect. Maybe, I don't know, it's the way he works or maybe the way I work. It does not connect, but it's not that I don't like him. There are times where so many things which I've not asked anyone. Yeah, he's elder to me. The times where I've asked him for certain advices. He's an amazing person, but yeah, sometimes I have a conflict.
Soumya, I'd love to ask you this actually, because you've been with the G7 Cloud almost ever since it started. And you've seen a lot of transformation from we doing everything that was thrown at us, migration, selling. I mean, we've all done sales, migration, to you see us changing in terms of structure, having specialization, having these cluster-based approach. Based on your experience with G7, what do you feel about these transformations? I mean, do you think they're good, bad, whatever? We'd like to hear.
No, I think we've learned a lot from the time we've started here. I think what's made us different is today we know every single division, the way they're working with, and we've learned a lot. I think the cluster system, the way we brought in, I think that's no one has an idea the way cluster, and it's been working. We've seen amazing response from customers where they say, right, we just call and we can talk to people. You don't have to wait for level 1 engineer getting assigned, level 2 engineer getting assigned. There's sometimes I've given a feedback where by the time they reach out to other support teams, irrespective of whichever cloud they're working with or anyone. By the time the actual engineer who can help them resolve, they've resolved it themselves. But here, the feedback we've got from customers, I think they've loved our cluster approach. What I like about the most about our growth is we've never changed our value system. I think that is something which is something I really thank that's never degraded at all. Whatever the phase we're going, I think we're in the right direction, I feel.
Wonderful. Nice to hear that opinion. Based on the experience that you had so far, now see, I cannot ask you, unfortunately, to compare it with other work experiences. But what would you like to change if there is something you want to change about G7? What would be the one thing which you'd like to you think it would make it better? And feel comfortable to give us the right opinion and right answer, whatever you feel.
I think as an organization, I don't see that things, but as internal employees, I think we got to be vocal enough about what they're feeling, because not everyone feels the same about what is happening. With respect to organization, I don't think so anyone is been like us, at least. With respect, I think most of the time I've always felt that I've been telling Jess also sometimes. G7 is always known before we need that. Before even we realize that we need it, the organization already knows that. So with respect to organization, I don't think there's anything that needs to change.
And maybe what would you tell your colleagues to get them to be vocal about their feelings and sound, or would you like to give them a message?
I think we still believe in that open door policy, which we still have. I think whenever you have something, just please go talk to the right people rather than talking among yourself. So maybe reach out to the right people, and I'm definitely sure that it will get addressed.
Amazing.
And you'll be
Amazing. Okay. I'm going to switch back to something which is personal, most probably. Okay. I think you were one of the first people who got impacted with COVID from G7. Okay, and I remember the call you made when you got that report, and you seemed so stressed. Would you like to share something about that experience?
Oh yes, definitely. That made me realize a lot of things that phase. I'm thankful that somewhere it happened to realize who we have and what we need to be pursuing in life, at least. At least first my dad got diagnosed with positive. I was okay, but at least still there were people to take around. We could go see him. But then mom and me, both of us got diagnosed. It was very difficult to take in when you felt helpless. But I think God made sure that there were right people. I would really thank the people from my dad's colleagues for his side. But the emotional connect or the support that I got from G7 is immense. I don't know, I can be grateful till the day I'm going to have my last breath. I'm just going to be so thankful to everyone for making it so easier. You had everything, but you couldn't step out of the house. But there were places where the oxygen was sent home. There's a lot more things. I don't know. I don't know how to put it in words. I just would want to thank everyone who've been in that for us to come out of it. Every day I had Sir calling, I had Jess calling, I had other people from my team. They didn't let me take stress. They made sure that they did things on their own. The prayers from our colleagues. I think more than the family, my relations, I think the support I got from G7 was immense.
Thank you. And you don't have to feel grateful for that as colleagues. That's something which we all have to do.
No, not
So
everyone
no
would do
gratefulness
that,
required.
right? So not everyone would do that. So.
I remember that your dad actually works in a hospital. I mean, just for the information so that everybody knows this. And I remember even before the COVID, you were telling me that you and your mom used to tell him you stop going because
Yes.
you go to a hospital, you're going to have these challenges which is going to occur. And what really happened when you were telling your dad not to go?
Oh, he
to
took
these?
it very lightly. He's like, not only you have dad, everyone has dad. And he's like, see, if we decide to not do that, then who are going to take care of people? So whatever you say, I'm not going to listen to you. I'm going to do whatever I want. So there are times I think I remember you also telling that maybe you should ask your dad to maybe stop working for some time until this gets okay. But he never backed out. He's like, no, I think this is my job and I think I have to keep going.
And on second thoughts, actually, that's a very noble thing to do, right? Because if all the medical workers decide they are going to stay at home, then who's going to be there to treat the people who are sick? So hats off to your dad for that. Okay. How did he feel? But when he got COVID and after that you and mom got it, Was he very sad? Was he demotivated? I mean,
He was until ninth day. He didn't have any symptoms as such. So we used to talk. It was more like me and my mom were like we were in a hostel kind of a mode. But he got really stressed when he thought me and my mom were the who's going to take care of them, sort of a thing. But after we told them that this is the support I'm getting and things, he was okay. But until 9 days, it was like a holiday for him. He never had any symptoms, so he enjoyed the stay at hospital and all of it. Ninth day, he got really stressed when he really had to be moved to KC General Hospital, which is the COVID hospital again. He was stressed, he was scared, he didn't know what to do. And he faced an experience where the person who was the bed next to him literally suicided, hanging himself to the thing. So he got negative thoughts in mind, thinking, maybe even I should end my life. That's the kind of stories he came. And even now I see him simply sitting sometimes and thinking about stuff. Maybe he was really demotivated at that point. Took a lot of effort to bring him out of it.
But I think the recovery was quick after that, right? Well, I mean, once he came back. Your experiences, I'm sure a lot of people in G7 would like to hear this, because your experience itself with COVID, I mean, was there pain, were there symptoms? What was the kind of physical experience that you had during these symptoms?
Symptoms were there, not like too extreme sort of a thing, but it was too random. Maybe I got fever in the morning, or maybe sometimes in the night it used to be more, and morning I was like normal, nothing happened to me, sort of a thing. But symptoms were not too extreme like my dad had. So he had to get the oxygen and all of it, but we didn't have that kind of symptoms. So fortunately, we're okay.
And mom also had no symptoms?
Mom more than, I think, I remember talking to you where you said the only way to come out of this or deal with this is being strong internally and just taking in that. So I think that helped. So I still believe that anyone who gets diagnosed, don't worry about it, just stay positive. It's going to come, it's going to go, sort of thing. Just be positive. But mom, emotionally, she was a little low because dad was in hospital. She couldn't see him and all of it. But passing over that to her to be strong was the biggest thing.
Right. And I think you guys were cooking separately also for some time, right? Actually,
although until you guys told me like last 2 days, like, no, you don't have to cook separately. You can just use different utensils. So until then, we were cooking separately. We didn't know that.
How was the experience when dad came back home? You guys got the negative reports. I remember you told me that you felt more happier than your exam results when you got the negative report.
I swear, I was literally feeling, I'm not a person who sit at one place or maybe not talking to people. I'm more like, always walking around and things. But when I saw my dad, it was very weak. But I was very happy that all of us got negative. But when I saw him, it literally made me feel like I think nothing could have ever given you so much happiness after he came back home the way we wanted.
If you thought something was missing during that time from the people around, in terms of support, is there anything that you felt was missing? You think people could have done better to support you maybe?
I think the government could have done support. I think starting COVID was taken very serious, but later then I didn't see them getting the sanitization done or sticking things on the board. Right. Maybe for other places they were extreme, but at least in my place I don't see anything. So I think government, I wouldn't tell anything else from other people. I've got more than what was needed. I still have the oxygen cans to say, but I've got more from the other side. I think the government should have been a little more.
Excellent. In terms of this work from home, this whole concept, because I mean we're talking about COVID and so on. What is your opinion? I mean, is this work from home good? Is it bad? What is your experience with people in G7? Your own experience? I mean, is work from home something which you think is more better because it gives you more time with family and so on, or?
For me, no. It is mixed opinion. Few places I feel that office environment is better. So you get to structure your day properly. Yeah, productivity increases, but at the same time, you get up. There are times where I just get up and start working. So that's not the way that we would do. And people connect was a more issue because one you were at home always when this COVID happened stuff, and you couldn't get to know people's expression when you talk. So you don't know what they're feeling. Sometimes you're in some mindset and you just talk. You don't know how the person feels. Or maybe explanation was a little difficult. And maybe after doing that video concept, it did resolve to some extent. But still, I think we are all related. We just want to meet people, talk to them. And emotionally, I think there was a little disconnect.
We made that video calls mandatory. Did that help after that?
That helped a lot. I think at least talking to the customers reduced. Otherwise, until then, customers kept talking. After you made it video call, I think they started getting conscious. Things were to what you had to talk in.
Calls ended
that
more
really
quicker.
helped. Really helped.
In terms of what you've achieved so far, I mean, are you happy? Did you imagine that you will, because you're one of our most successful recruits, we know that. You've done a lot for our success. But in terms of your own feeling and satisfaction, I mean, do you think you've got what you deserve? Do you think that, did you imagine you would be here in 3 years after?
I swear, no. I never even thought I would reach maybe even 20% of what I have today. I never thought I would have a car. I swear. I didn't even know I would be joining a driving school for me to learn, because I still remember when you guys said me that maybe you should start learning driving school. Why will I learn? I have no plans of buying a car. Why will I learn now? I never thought that I would be in a place where I am today. I can give you so many examples. I can relate to so many things, how I was and how I am now. This was something that I never expected. The best thing that happened to me was G7.
Okay, so we forced you to learn driving, I remember.
Yes.
Jess, at least I think, used to pester
Oh,
you
we
a
got
lot.
threatened.
Okay, to go for the driving class and learn driving, and then we just gave you this old car which was being used by a colleague, which is G7's car to use. I mean, how did it feel when you got into that car for the first time? I mean, what was the experience? Because I remember my experience when I sat in the car for the first time, and I remember the experience. What was your experience like? What was
I was
the
so
feeling?
stressed. I was so stressed. Even now, last time I brought the car also, I was so stressed. I was like, this was more like a torture. Why do I have to learn driving, sort of a thing? And at least when you took out of the office, it was very difficult. You could see people just honking behind you. Like, dude, I'm still learning. Just give me space to learn. It was very stressful until I learned.
But now you're pretty confident on
Yeah,
the car.
pretty
You're
confident, yes.
Excellent. In terms of your aspirations, further aspirations, see, maybe you've already achieved quite a bit, but I'm sure there's a lot more to achieve. So if I ask you, what is your future goals and plans? What would be your thinking at this moment?
Goals and plans with respect to sir.
Or goals. Let's look at aspirations. What else would you like to achieve?
No, I don't think so. The aspirations, when I talk to, I think I want to be in a place where the same thing what I'm still learning. I think learning is something that I still want to continue. I never thought I will be in this place. It was never imagined. I don't know what is there for me in future, but I'm just going to continue what I'm doing so far. Let me take wherever it goes.
Would you like to basically take my place or Jess's place? Any kind
Oh
of
yes,
aspirations?
I'll take
that-
your place. I'll take your place also. Yeah, I'll take.
Okay, so we got competition.
Yes, you got a
okay.
competition. Yes.
So we better be careful.
Yes.
In terms of money, okay, is there something that you think that you could make more money? Is there any aspirations in terms of money? What is a comfortable life according to you? I mean, have you achieved that already? Is there?
No, there's one thing left for the comfortable life. I think I always wanted to have a house of my own. I don't believe in making too many properties and all of it. I just want to have one house, maybe one site for a backup, maybe one car and one two-wheeler. This all is what I had as a comfortable life. So I think that's the only thing that is missing in that
right now.
piece as of now.
And definitely it's not boyfriend, husband in the house.
No,
it's only the house.
Only the house.
Only the house. Okay. What message would you want to give all the boys in G7? You're available or not available?
I'm not available.
Not
available.
Anyway, coming back to the house, that's a nice dream. I mean, is it just a house somewhere, or would you like to basically, do you have a vision of, having this big bangla with, a rose garden in front of it and maybe a pet running in the backyard? Okay, you said no boyfriend and husband, so I cannot talk about kids running
For
around.
now, no. I have sisters. For now, no.
No. So what is the vision of this house? I mean, what
It's
is
not
that?
too big house sort of a thing. Maybe a small 30-40 or a 60-40 house, which I've built based on how I vision my house should be, and maybe a small garden.
Amazing.
That's it.
Wish you all the best for that dream. We definitely, as G7, will do as much as we can to support you fulfill that. And before we move on to the rapid fire round, there's one last question which I have to ask you.
Okay.
So I'm going to ask you first to look into my eyes. And I'm going to ask you for your deepest, darkest desires. Now, everybody would like to hear that.
Naughty desires, I'm not going to tell. It's offline, I take.
You sure you don't want to attempt it?
No, naughty desires. Offline.
Okay, after, we'll ask you this after six pegs down, maybe tequila shots.
My gosh.
Cool. So we are moving to our last round, which we are going to work with. That's going to basically be a rapid fire round. Now, the way it works, the rules of it is, you will get a very big gift if you basically pass the 5 questions. And all the questions will be about an individual. So the answer has to be the name of a person. It cannot be no, nobody, yes. It has to be the name of a person. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. Question number 1. Hottest guy in G7?
You.
Hottest woman in G7? The person in G7 who is basically the cutest.
I haven't found any.
Brother in G7?
Shiva.
Super. Excellent. Okay. So your last question in the rapid fire round. Who would you like to kill in G7?
Gulab.
Thank you. You passed. I think one question was wrong. You gave me the wrong answer, but you passed. Okay. And your gift for this is going to basically be the cup which you're basically having is yours. You can take the cup home, and you'll need to do one small thing for us. Okay. We are going to put this upstairs in a vault. Okay. So you need to put the date here, and you need to sign here. This cup is for us. That cup is. Here you are.
Date or the signature?
Yeah. Date and signature. Thank you very much. And before we end, I'm going to put you on to Jess. We have a surprise for you today. Okay, and I'm going to hand over the stage to Jess to give you that surprise. Okay, so before I hand over the stage to Jess, let me personally and on the behalf of the entire G7 thank you for everything you've done for G7. Honestly, without all the things you've done, we would not be where we are today. So from the heart, a big thank you. You're responsible for a lot of the success. Thank you very much. Thank you for being on the spotlight. Thank you.
Thanks, Soumya. Welcome to Spotlight. G7's
Thank you so
Spotlight.
much.
You look very bright. It's all rhyming. I came with an intention to beat you up actually. I was listening to your response to who is your favorite person, but I think I changed my mind. Thank you very much for driving value for G7. I think I will. That was a great show. We got to know a lot of things, but yeah. And we have a surprise for you. Yesterday I called you and I said you have to give back your car that you're using, and I troubled you a lot, gave you a lot of stress. Like, what did you do, Soumya? Why are we taking back the car? Did you do something wrong? Did you sleep well?
No, I didn't. I was thinking, how do I go ask them what happened? I was like, I changed my mind. I'm not asking any questions.
That was the intention. So we want to give you something. This is a token of appreciation from G7 CR. So you get a brand new car, and now it's automatic. You don't have to get stressed about driving. So this one first.
Thank you.
Now you can hold this up and then say you're delighted, whatever.
I have no words. I have to exercise. No, this is so much.
And this is everything.
Thank you so much.
You just hold your emotion.